Richards trying to scoot in there alone. It pinballs to the crease.
Let's get it.
Oh my God! Here we go.
You're listening to the Street Bullies podcast with your hosts, Derek.
How you gonna get it, Bobby?
John. Matt Casey.
Unnecessary, but totally necessary.
And Cody.
What's not to love?
What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Street Bullies. My name is Derek.
And I'm John. What's going on, everybody?
And if that sounds familiar, it's because you've been listening to us for way too long. Because, folks, it is just John and I, the OGs from PSB.
Tag team back again.
Oh, man. As much as I do love Matt Casey and Hoagie, it is nice.
Right. As much as I love Matt Casey, it is nice.
All right. Well,
Suck it, Hoagie.
Hey, at least I love you, Hoagie. A lot of stuff to touch on here tonight.
Yeah.
We're gonna briefly, maybe we'll see, touch on what's happening with the story that broke today about the legal issues that the Flyers and Comcast could find themselves in, and we got a little bit of stay and go with a couple RFAs that are set to potentially hit the market as of right now, at least. And recap a little bit of the play that happened this week, and we'll dive right into that, really, because another week of Flyers hockey, another week of underwhelming results.
Underwhelming. That's a compliment. Holy moly.
Right? 2 losses back-to-back on consecutive nights to the Buffalo Sabres. We're going to roll it underneath here.
5 in a row to the Buffalo Sabres. We got season swept.
I heard somewhere, and it was during the broadcast, Jim Jackson, I think, brought it up, that their power play, Buffalo's power play against the Flyers, is like 60 or 70%. Like, just an ungodly number. What the hell?
I don't know, dude. And I mean, and kind of classic Flyer crap kept rearing its ugly head, where it's like we look good for a period, maybe even have a lead, and then whoopsies, we forgot.
You mean we can't play a full 60? Oh my God.
It's crazy though how it seems like they're just fine with winning a period right now. Like, hey, we did it. All
Baby
right.
Steps.
Call it a
Here
night.
we go.
Don't want to tire out the dogs too much.
Yeah, God forbid we get embarrassed 9-4 instead of 9-2, against Washington earlier this week.
Woof.
Yeah, it was an all-around bad showing. I mean, we're looking at 13, 17, 22 goals against in 4 games to the Flyers 5-8.
Right. I mean, and
Jesus Christ.
The Washington game was the game that they all started to get hurt. I mean, all the healthy bodies. I mean, everybody's been getting hurt all year long, but
yeah, Atkinson, York, Risto, Hart. I mean, you name it, they're down. They're hurt at this point.
Right. Allegedly, anyway.
Yeah. I mean,
allegedly.
Interesting. A lot of those guys have term left on their contracts,
which is fine by me. I mean, if you're hurt, please get rested. If you're just, ailing a little bit, rest. Right now, I don't want you to play. I don't want to win. What's the point of winning right now? We have, 6-7 games left? Don't tank. Tank.
Who cares?
Just do it at this point. Lose out. 3 10-game losing streaks.
So close to a top 3 pick. I mean, Seattle's got a game in hand on us, and they're 3 points behind. There is hope, folks.
They can lose in overtime a few times as long as we just keep losing in regulation. Come on now.
The hope at the end of the barrel of the shotgun.
Right.
At least what it feels like sometimes with this team. But we saw Bobby Brink now. He's on the ice. He's playing for the Flyers. That's fun to watch. Fantastic opportunity. I think it was the Washington or one of the Buffalo games. Just took that puck, 3/4 of the ice, I think, and created a goal for Farabee there.
Right. Yeah.
That's what you want to see, right?
For sure. Yep. definitely. I tell you, though, that picture that he took with his first NHL point, could he look any more mangy? Holy moly. I mean, it seriously looked like he was going to get adopted at a shelter afterwards. It's just like, oh, come on. Slick it back or something, Bob.
There's our next team dog, Brink.
But, I mean, listen, I think right away you're kind of seeing what you're going to get with Bobby Brink. Yeah, obviously, he'll progress, but the skating looks – I think Jason Martinez said it on one of the shows he does where it's not aesthetically pleasing, which I think is a perfect way to sum it up.
I don't need aesthetically pleasing. I need goals. That's
Right.
what I need.
Right. And I think the opportunities will be there for him. But I think the player that I've been most impressed with is Noah Cates.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He hasn't looked out of place.
Nope.
He plays his role on this team really well. He's aggressive. He's got a nose for the puck.
Smart.
Smart. Exactly. He's an intelligent hockey player with the skill set to really make him a valuable piece, potentially in a middle six role.
Agreed.
Like if we're not getting too far ahead of ourselves here.
Yeah. I think he's somebody where you can slide him up and down the lineup. Like I think, second line is without a doubt Cap.
Like a Scott Lawton.
Sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's never gonna put up tons of points, but he has the hockey IQ. He knows to be in the right places, and he has a winner's mentality. Right?
He does. Something apparently this team lacks because the comments that came from him, and not drawing up too much, controversy here, but he was asked a question during a press conference earlier this week, what he thinks is missing with the Flyers compared to programs that he's been a part of with winning mentalities. And he said, quote, "Yeah, it's obviously tough, but just kind of the energy and kind of the swagger, whatnot that winning teams have." Goes on and on and on. And then he says, there's so many guys in that locker room that want to win. It's just frustrating that we're not. We're playing hard. It's just a little extra effort here and there that will get it done. Think of it. It's culture shock for this kid right now. You go from a team that was just great. He won a national championship, two national championships. Yeah. And now you're on a team that's a bottom of the barrel type team in the NHL. So,
right. Well, and I think, he comes from a winning culture, and now he's experiencing a team that it's like once one bad thing happens, they all hide under a rock. Like, oh no, it's happening again, and hopefully he could be a part of the solution. I mean, I don't take what he said at all as a bash of his teammates. He went on to say there's great leaders, but he was very candid with his response, which makes me think like leadership qualities down the road too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he goes on to say it's kind of hard as a younger guy to say some stuff or whatnot, just trying to play the best I can at the times I got. Again, kind of reiterates as a younger guy, it's hard to say something. He just thinks he's got to keep playing hard, chipping away, kind of talk a little when he can, which again, the candidness is fantastic from a kid this age, coming into the NHL for his first partial season here.
Right, he's played about 10 games.
Yeah, and in those 10 games, he's played incredibly well. I think it's a good sign of things to come, but I mean, maybe that's what it's going to take. I mean, let the kid ruffle some feathers. Like, what do we have to lose at this point?
Nothing. Nothing. I mean, I want more Noah Cates, and I don't necessarily mean skill set, but I want people who, identify that the way that they're going about things is wrong.
Yeah. Someone needs to call them out on the wrongdoing. Someone needs to call them out on the things that they aren't executing, not doing properly. It needs to happen.
It's just crazy to me, like how a team can play well one period and then completely disappear for the rest of the game. Like, how does something like that continue to happen? The coaches must be saying things like, hey, let's make sure we keep the pedal to the metal here. I don't know. It blows my mind that this continues to happen with this team year after year.
Yeah. Like I have a hard time blaming the coaches in something like this because it's on the players. The onus is on them 100% to come out and perform. But like there needs to be a certain level of,
like
excitement.
Thicker skin?
That too.
Like, you know what I mean?
You're playing in a tough hockey market, You're going to hear it from all ends.
I'm not even talking about that, though. I'm talking about like this whenever there seems to be this little sign of adversity on the ice, just call it. We're done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we could be rolling, and then it's like once one team starts to chip its way back in, forget it. They are coming back because we can't seem to hold on to anything. We can't keep fighting.
There's no fight. That's what
No.
it is. This team doesn't know how to come back from a 2-0, 3-0 deficit. You know,
They don't know how to hold a 2-0, 3-0 deficit either.
They don't. They absolutely don't. We saw that mainly evidenced in the Buffalo games. Both.
Right.
Every single time Buffalo came right back in, and you're looking at a team in Buffalo. It isn't that good.
No.
They're better than they were, but what's that saying when they were terrible, you know?
Right. Yeah, this isn't the Rangers or the Capitals. Like, we're still dealing with a team that's not going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. A team that, you know, we really should beat, and we didn't for 5 straight effing games.
Yep.
Yeah. Without anything else to add to the play that's happened this week, we turn to the big story that hit the Twitterverse this afternoon. There is now going to be a lawsuit filed against the Flyers organization on behalf of Jim McCrossan and Sal Rafa, 2 guys that are a part of their training staff. And it was broken by Anthony Sanfilippo and Crossing Broad. I want to give credit where it's due, obviously. And it basically states that the chemicals used in the Zambonis to clean the ice on the surface of Voorhees, their training facility, caused this cancer. I believe in at least McCrossan, it is you can't recover from it. It's fatal. You know, he will end up passing away because of this cancer. In Rafa's case, it's there. I don't think it's terminal is the word I'm looking for there.
Right.
Sorry, not a doctor.
Yep.
I don't think it's terminal, but it is a serious sort of cancer. And then I hate to even say it this way, but like at this point, I feel like I'm justified in saying so. In typical Flyer fashion, or in typical Flyers organization fashion, they responded to this claim and put out a quote this afternoon, and it says the safety of our employees and guests at the Flyers Training Center and all of our facilities is always a top priority for us. We've looked into the allegations made by Jim McCrossan and Sal Rafa over the course of several months, and based on that, believe that their claims have no merit. Beyond that, we cannot comment further, given that this matter is in litigation. End quote. I'll let you say what you've got to say about this before I kind of spout off. I feel a little more impassioned about it maybe than you do, but
well, I mean, first of all, my heart breaks for these 2 gentlemen. You know, regardless of the reason, the fact that these 2 are sick, you know, McCrossan, you know, not being able to recover from this. I mean, it's heartbreaking. You know, you never want to see this,
of course,
no matter what circumstance. I don't know anything about fumes from a Zamboni or what's used to power a Zamboni. I also am not a lawyer. You know, I do think that when lawyers get involved in things, right, the human side kind of gets taken out of it. And that's not a knock on what a lawyer does, right? This is part of what their job is. And although the statement from the Flyers was incredibly cold, it reads like what a lawyer is telling you to say. You know, I mean, unfortunately, when you're accused of something like this, even though how terrible it is, you're going to be on the defensive. You're a huge organization. You're a professional sports franchise. And as much as it sucks, like that response doesn't shock me in the slightest. And I don't think it necessarily reflects on the Flyers organization as a whole. But, you know, I don't know. I'm just looking at it from like the law standpoint. Like that's what the lawyers probably advised them to say.
Sure. Well, of course, which, you know, any lawyer would probably say something almost verbatim as to what, you know, we just read off here and what the statement was. Coming from a bit more of like a human side here, and looking at it with a bit more emotion. The part that bothers me is what I kind of accentuated was the them believing that their claims have no merit. So you are essentially saying in so many words that they're lying about where they got the cancer. Not that they have it, obviously that's not disputable, but the fact that it kind of calls these two guys a liar and then goes on and says, we can't comment further given on this matter is in litigation. Like, okay,
Right.
we're just going to tell them that they're liars, but then we can't go on about it.
Right. They definitely could have said something else like, we, along with our team, are going to do everything to kind of get down to the bottom of this,
They could have just left it out altogether. You just don't even mention that these claims have any
Right.
type of merit. Just
Right,
let
just
it
we
go and
can't
say we're
comment.
looking into it.
And we can't comment. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
you're right.
I do it with customers all the time. They ask me a question I might know the answer to. They don't want to hear it. I'll be like, let me check into it for you.
Right.
Then I come down like a hammer and break their dreams.
I mean, this probably did the opposite of what they wanted, but right, it is all about kind of saving your image and getting on the defensive. And that's exactly what they did. And I'm not in any way, shape, or form justifying it.
Sure.
It's just, when this kind of crap gets ugly, and it's unfortunate that that's the case.
It's going to get uglier too. Like, this is just the tip of the iceberg here. This could be rough. This could be a really, really rough look for the Flyers organization. Comcast, if you want to lump them in there as well, because obviously being owners, just that, that is the part that will stick with me. And that's the part that a lot of people will likely harp on, is basically calling into question the merit of those claims.
Right.
Fair or not, it's there now, and it's up into the public stratosphere in which a lot of people are going to take offense to it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you would think, right, that these two gentlemen are not just going to go and make the suit unless, there was legitimate evidence.
Sure.
But I mean, the reality is I don't have a whole too much to say else about it. I really hope that, for as much as they can be okay, that they will be, and I hope that this can kind of get solved as civilly as possible.
Yeah. I really just don't want to see anybody get dragged through the mud with this. My heart goes out to him, like you said. I hope that as much as, given the status of it being terminal with Mr. McCross in there, like, I hope that he can live a full life up until that time comes. I hope Rafa can as well, obviously, but we'll see. There's, I'm sure, more going to be unfolding with this that, we're all going to be in the loop about. So we'll be keeping an eye on it, and hopefully it doesn't get too bad, but nice transition here into some stay or go with what we've been doing for the past month, probably.
Yeah, month and change.
Yeah, we've touched on a lot of players so far, a lot of the obvious names with some decisions between two, kind of as a face-off this week. Not necessarily a one or the other type deal, but we do have 3 RFAs, 2 obviously much bigger deal than the other. Figured I'd throw in that third though, because I like the guy. And the other guys, pretty decent talk we could have about these guys. And,
especially one of them.
Yeah, and that one is Morgan Frost.
Yep.
The one guy that I feel like is in the mouths of everybody come off season. Is he going to be the 3C? Is he taking that next step? He's on an expiring deal. It's paying him $863,000 a year. If they want to tender the guy, they can tender him for a little over $900,000 for 1 year.
Okay.
Other than that, he's a restricted free agent. What's your Chuck Fletcher right now? Given, assuming I should say that Chuck Fletcher is here this offseason.
Sure. Which I think he will be.
I think he will too. What's your plan with Morgan Frost, and what are you looking to do with him?
Well, I think that even though ownership has thrown around this term aggressive retool, right? If I'm Chuck Fletcher and I'm intelligent, which he must be, right? He did get this job, and as much as we want to bash these people, he did something to deserve this job. He needs to understand that although aggressive retool is what ownership wants, we are closer to a rebuild. And when you're thinking rebuild, you think young players. You try to, get rid of older assets, but you need to try to hold on to your young players. Now, Morgan Frost, first of all, if he needs more, than a tender, he's not going to cost much money, right? He has not proved much. Now, people will say, well, he's looked better, but he's not producing, right? Mm-hmm. Points are not being put up onto the stat sheet, which is what we need him to do.
Of course.
But this is a situation where you gain more potentially by holding on to him than you gain letting go of him at this point.
Mhm.
I just don't see a scenario when, packages, we can all talk about that, him being thrown into a package and bringing in a haul. I just don't see a scenario where this team is in a potential better place without him at this point.
Mhm. I mean, you're talking about a guy that's got 12 points this year.
Yep.
You're talking about a guy who doesn't have a ton of NHL experience, and you see those moments where you're like, okay, maybe this is the Morgan Frost that we thought, that we envisioned when he was drafted. And then you see him get pushed back down to the AHL. Like we're past that point.
Sure.
We're past the point where he needs any more AHL experience. This guy, if they're going to bring him back, they need to have a spot for him on the team. And not only that, they need to have a spot in which they know, and not just think, they know he's going to be able to flourish in.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, though, man. Listen, a lot can happen this offseason, right?
Mhm.
But we are playing with a lot of ifs with this team next year. If this person stays healthy, if this person progresses the way that we're expecting them to, like Morgan Frost is going to fall into that category of ifs.
Yeah. What's one more at this point, right?
Right. And I've said this before, like he is somebody where I worry about trading him elsewhere.
Mhm.
And then him turning into the player, that we all kind of thought that he would. If that brought us back something that was going to help us win next season, I think I'd be okay with it at this point. I just don't see a scenario where that happens unless we're putting him as a sweetener.
Mhm.
And then I don't feel great about it because if he turns into a star, then we just, sweeten the pot with a star.
We look like schmucks. Like that.
Right.
That's
Again.
the Flyers look like a bunch of schmucks again. And we're getting used to it, honestly. But you're absolutely right. I think can be better. Not better right now, but can be better than just a sweetener that you add to a deal to get exactly what you want.
Sure.
But the fear remains, think about it. Everybody, and this might be a poor example, but like Gostisbehere needed a change of scenery. He went to Arizona. He's thriving in Arizona.
That's
suck. Arizona,
right.
So there are your caveats with that. But at the same rate, he wasn't going to do that in Philadelphia.
Right.
Maybe Morgan Frost doesn't reach his potential as a Flyer. Like it sucks, but it's okay to admit that.
But it's also still too soon to give up.
You're right.
At this point, I mean, people might, unjustifiably lump him in with Nolan Patrick, right? And be like, well, this is another guy where it didn't connect. But Nolan Patrick had this injury history, the migraines. I guess you call that an injury? Medical history.
Medical history. There you go.
That doesn't exist with Morgan Frost, to my knowledge. He hasn't lost a whole season due to migraines.
Just, broken this or broken that.
Right. But like at the place that the Flyers are in right now, the last thing that they can afford to do is trade away your younger, I'm using air quotes, high-end assets. They're just not in a position to do so.
Yeah. You're playing with a double-edged sword here.
Right.
Like you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Right.
I personally, I'd hang on to him.
Right.
Take him through his RFA years, see if something happens, because he does need to be put in some sort of position to succeed. You're not going to see him succeed on the fourth line. You might on the third line. I'd like to see him personally move to winger. And
I was just going to say the same thing.
Yeah, I think he'd be better suited for the wing. It's less responsibility. If he acclimates to the game well enough, maybe see if center might intrigue him or would be best for the franchise. But at that point, if he's playing well at wing, let well enough go,
Sure. I'd rather have 3 established gentlemen at center, fourth line too, but your 1 through 3C, you kind of know what you're dealing with and let him figure it out on the wing.
So in that regards and this is kind of off topic here, are you comfortable with Couturier, Hayes, and let's say Lawton down the middle, or even Cates? Maybe Cates goes 3C.
Sure. I mean, I'd see what else you can do.
Mm-hmm.
At least explore other options and kind of see what happens.
Sure.
Because who knows what this team's going to look like.
Nobody.
Right. But I think the wing makes the most sense for Morgan Frost. And maybe this is a scenario where he doesn't want to stay.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he's like, you know what? This is not the organization for me. And then you do end up trading him.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if we're assuming that he'll remain a Flyer, I just don't see. I think that you risk more by trading him.
I think you're risking it no matter what. This guy isn't going to fetch you the return he would have 2-3 years ago.
Sure. And I think the only way you really trade him again is if it's a package. Like, you're not just trading Morgan Frost for like what? Like
a bag of pucks and some soft
a 4th
pretzels.
round pick or another prospect that's in a similar boat as him.
You're not getting the quality back. That's for damn sure.
Right. So unless you're going to do something like Provorov and Frost for who the hell knows, like, I don't know.
Might as well hang on to him.
Might as well. Right.
Yeah. And if it comes at less than $1 million or even maybe right at the $1 million mark, I can stomach that.
Sure.
I can stomach it for a year or two. He's not signing anything for longer than that. I guarantee it.
Right.
But there's a lot of variables that there's a lot of stars that need to align, I should say,
sure,
for Frost to find his footing here in Philadelphia and be as successful as we thought he would be.
And even though he hasn't, lived up to his potential, he's not part of the problem.
No, absolutely not.
Yes, he has not become what we wanted him to as quick as we wanted him to.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a lot of factors at play here with that.
Mm-hmm.
This was us thinking Ron Hextall was a draft genius. This was him putting flashy numbers up in junior, grasping onto something when we had nothing. There's a lot there that it's not his fault necessarily.
You can't blame the kid. He's been put in a position. It's tough with the injuries that he's sustained. It's tough with just the teetering between the AHL and the NHL.
And when he's on the NHL roster, the roster sucks.
Yeah, I find it hard to hold a lot of that against him because he hasn't been afforded the same opportunity that guys in his position have been able to have.
Sure. I mean, that being said, I'm disappointed.
Sure.
That he hasn't, become what we wanted him to, but let's just hold on to him and see what happens.
Yeah, there's no harm in it.
No.
What's it going to do? Like, oh no, we can't call up, Peter Smith here and, have him play 4C,
Right.
Like, who cares at that point? But moving on to another RFA, if we have nothing else to add to the Frost discussion, we get to Owen Tippett, the guy that was brought over in the trade for Claude Giroux. And he's an RFA, same deal that Frost is on right now as well. Same number also. And I find it hard to believe that this guy won't be a Flyer next year. Like that's just common sense, right?
There is no possible way Chuck Fletcher can let this guy walk. I mean, in a very underwhelming return for Claude Giroux, he was the cornerstone.
Mm-hmm. If he doesn't re-sign with the Flyers, or if Chuck Fletcher cannot find a way, that trade goes from bad to one of the worst in franchise history.
Yeah. I mean, but and listen, like, has he connected on a lot of opportunities? No, but he's getting the opportunities, right?
He's also hit about 74, give or take a few posts. I mean, Christ.
Right.
The chances he's getting are great looks.
Right. I mean, there's definitely something there that's, he'll work on in the offseason and, hopefully get better at, right?
Yeah.
But the upside to him is very clear, and it is something that we need on this team.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who is willing to shoot first.
Yes. Somebody who can score goals, something this team is not good at doing currently and for the past insert however many years here. It's this if Owen Tippett was not re-signed would be a catastrophic failure.
Right. There's no way it doesn't happen. There's no way.
You're absolutely right. Like, we said almost the same thing to a variant of degree to like what Ristolainen. Like, that was the deal that Fletcher made. He had to keep him. You can't admit defeat. But this is like Ristolainen times 10. This is
Sure.
you completely screwed the pooch if you can't get this guy on your team next year, which don't see that happening. He's
Right.
absolutely going to be here.
Well, and if you think about it, we own his rights. By we, I mean the Flyers, right? They have team control on him. And he looks at this as an opportunity to, reach his potential. He was buried in Florida's roster. There was no
so
chance.
deep.
You ain't going to get buried on this roster, let me tell you.
No, sir.
You score 4 goals and we got a spot for you, my friend. So it all makes sense. And again, even if he wasn't showing signs of promise, Chuck Fletcher couldn't let him go.
Yeah. I mean, you're looking at a guy who he's on about the pace that he was with the Panthers currently, like 4 points, 14 games, something like that. I didn't expect a ton from the guy coming in. I don't think anybody did.
No.
Like, he wasn't going to come in here and set the world on fire, but we're seeing, much to what you alluded to, we're seeing the chances. We're seeing him in the play, driving play, shooting, which is most important to me. Like,
He's
I want to see him.
Fast skater.
Yeah, fast. He can be physical too, which is great. I personally, I love that.
Ginger.
Fits the bill. I mean, trade one, you get one. That's how it works in Philadelphia at this point. Personally, and I've said it a couple times on a couple different shows that we've had recently. I want to see him on the second line with Hayes, with Farabee.
Right.
You've got the perfect left-right dynamic.
What are we waiting for?
Right. Like, why not? It's 6 games left? Play
Right.
them. Play that line together. If you have any semblance of chemistry, you keep them together for next season. You put that top line together. It's Atkinson, Couturier, and insert name here. I don't
Johnny
care.
Gaudreau.
I'd be okay with that. And then that second line right there, if Johnny Gaudreau is on that top line, I think that's a pretty decent top 6.
Hypothetically.
Lots of ifs. Again,
I'm never putting expectations on this team ever again. This entire offseason, any move we make, I'm going to be like, well, yeah, good workout.
And I've seen this word thrown around a lot today. How much of a disconnect is there for you right now? Like, personally with this team, how much do you just feel completely removed from, like, if we're going to go as far as to say, like, your fanhood?
Yeah. I don't care right now. I have no desire to watch the games. I try to because we have a podcast.
This is what we clearly do for a living.
Right.
This is how I feed my child.
Listen to other podcasts, but it might as well be like the extended history of the creation of a thumbtack at this point. Like, it doesn't interest me much. Maybe a little bit more than the history of a thumbtack.
That could be interesting.
But I think part of the problem is too, and I'd like to dive in a little bit more into this, is I really think that they're trying to sell us on next year, again, with this aggressive retool, when the fan, the hockey enthusiast in me is going, no, boys, we need to rebuild. You need to just commit to the rebuild because nothing makes sense at this point when it comes to this aggressive retool.
No.
I don't want to trade draft picks. I don't want to trade prospects. It just doesn't make sense. And I'd rather them, I don't know if they need to write a letter, like that's been done, but like, just commit to, hey, if there's an opportunity to make this team better, we will take it. But we are not getting rid of, draft picks or top end young talent.
Yeah. They're playing a dangerous game right now. Dave Scott, I should say, and Comcast. They're playing a very dangerous game because if you commit to the quote unquote aggressive retool,
I don't even know what that means.
I don't either. And nor do I really care at this point.
Right.
It's a joke now at this point with all of us on Flyers, Twitter and everything. But if you commit to that and you fall flat on your face next year, like you did this year, not only do you risk losing even more of the fan base that already feels alienated, you're risking losing revenue.
Right.
Because as a fan, I'm more prone to go to a game knowing what to expect if this is a rebuild year and we're going to be playing a lot of the kids, or we have just a bunch of aging veterans on expiring deals that's going to free up cap space. I have my barometer set at that point as to what I expect.
Right.
I'm sick of going into seasons not knowing like where we're going to be and thinking we're going to be here and we end up here.
Right.
I'd love to be thinking we're going to be here and be pleasantly surprised and end up here. You know,
well,
that's never the case.
And I don't think, and when people think rebuild, right, they got to blow it up. And I don't think that you need to do that, but just have a methodical approach to it, right? We're only going to trade JVR if we get something in return. Maybe it's a 6th or 7th round pick, but we're not going to add assets to it. We're not going to deplete our draft stock to get rid of a guy to essentially bring in someone else that might just end up being another JVR with more term.
Yeah.
I just want them to have an actual vision and execute it, right? We're not going to get rid of young talent. Why would we do that? We haven't been good in the past 2 years. We essentially tried to aggressively retool last season, and that didn't work, I don't know. I mean, if I've just felt like they had a little bit more of a path, maybe I'd be a little more committed to this team right now.
Just some type of direction. That's all we're asking for. Like, it's not, I'm not asking for the world. I'm not asking for the promise of a Stanley Cup in the next 5 years. I just want direction.
Right.
If I want to enjoy going to the games, knowing that I'm going to watch a bunch of kids battling it out for their futures in this league, or if I'm going to watch a bunch of veterans who think that, we're going to have this team all put together, they're going to be good, and I go out there and they all suck again. Like, I'm tired of that. I hated going to that Rangers game back in January. It's not just because this is a struggling team, but because you're seeing over 50% of the fan base, or the fans, I should say, are Rangers fans in the Wells Fargo Center. I saw it on TV the other day. Like, it's downright depressing at this point. It's like going to an Orioles game against the Yankees, and they're all Yankee fans.
Right.
I hate that.
I mean, it's a bunch of putting Band-Aids on where a cast should go, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
exactly.
And it's putting us in really bad situations. Like, what is going on with Ryan Ellis? Mm-hmm. Is he alive? Is he in this country? Does he have both his legs?
Is he chained in the basement of the Wells Fargo Center for experimental procedures? Like,
I know we're going off on a tangent again, but that might be the most bizarre thing that's happening right now, is the fact that no one has any clue what is going on with Ryan Ellis.
And the fact that that's the most bizarre thing says a lot.
Yeah.
Like, your potential franchise defenseman here, nothing. No updates. Just I did hear, and I couldn't tell you where, so I apologize for not citing the source, that during the team photo, at least, he was getting treatment for I think it's been alluded to that it's a hip injury or something around that area. Again, not here to stir the pot, spread rumors, but that is just what I've heard in rumblings. I think someone let it slip on a broadcast or something like that. But regardless, like, just this is Hextall level transparency, by the meaning of, like, just doors closed, nothing leaks out, everything's upper body, lower body, and no more, no less.
And Fletcher is the opposite of that. I mean,
he's an open book.
Right, which makes me nervous, because why are we not an open book here?
You're right.
What's going on?
Yeah, something's wrong.
And I know, some places, right, some podcasts or websites, they want to dive into, there must be something going on with Ellis and the Flyers, and nobody doesn't show up to a photograph and all that crap. Like, I won't go that far. But
like,
there's something right.
Who gives it?
Look at this photograph. Maybe someone who makes me laugh.
Yeah, we're all laughing at this point, that's for sure.
Yeah. And that is probably the reason why I'm so nervous about next year, because Ryan Ellis, if Ryan Ellis isn't on this team, and he's got 5 more years, $6 million something cap hit, we might as well fast forward.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. If this is serious and this is a career-ending type deal, like,
then we can stash it, can't we?
I think so. But, like, we're back to we're back before square one at this point. We're prehistoric. Like
Yeah, but if he, I mean, now we're really going down a rabbit hole. But if he can't play, I'd rather that. Like, that doesn't sound right. I don't mean it like that, but like,
can't play. No.
Well, you know what I mean. Like, I'd rather no, hey, we have the cap space because he's on LTIR or whatever it is. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, presumably he's going to be ready for next season.
Well, let's hope so. I mean, at this point, all we can do is hope.
He's in Guatemala looking for a kidney.
Might be at this point. I mean, but we talk about defensemen here with Ryan Ellis. The last guy that we wanted to touch on here today is Sam Morin, another defenseman with the Flyers. Because I have a soft spot for Sam Morin. I love Sam Morin. Like, ever since this kid was drafted, the comparisons, the unfair comparisons, I should say, to Chris Pronger, just got me excited, and I still kind of hold that excitement, not to that degree, obviously, but
former left winger.
Yeah, former left winger. He's a versatile guy. He can play any position, essentially.
Just can't stay on his legs.
Yeah, the legs that are constantly broken. But basically, and I'll let you rebut here in a second. My big sticking point with this is that what's the harm? The guy's making $750,000 right now. We're losing Sealer. We're losing Clendenning. Brennan Mennel, that guy they traded for, I don't even know who the hell he is. Yandel's gone. Connaughton's gone. What's the harm in stashing him in the AHL? If he plays well, maybe he comes up for a couple games in the NHL. Like,
enough with this.
What's it gonna hurt?
Enough with this. This is like mediocre Flyer era nostalgia.
Oh, blow me.
This is ridiculous. This is
what's so ridiculous about
keeping that girl around in your senior year of high school, where it was like she was really nice. You never wanted to break up with her, but all you did was every once in a while you'd be like, I guess we got to rent a movie. Sorry, boys, I got to hang out with this girl because she's nice. There's no point to keeping Sam Morin.
There's no point in me dating a girl my sophomore year of college. Did I? I did. Did it burn me? Sure. But I wouldn't have known if I didn't try.
Scars for mine to set the past is real, huh, bud?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Amy.
Jesus.
Regardless, Amy, if you're
Morin.
listening, you ruined my life. Thanks. Not Moran. No, I
really hope Tasha's not watching the live stream of this, because I'm going to have to go get the blanket for the couch.
I'll hear about it soon if she comes up the steps. But no. In all seriousness, again, I've made my point. I don't think that this is that big of a deal. If he goes,
You're right.
Whatever. But what's the harm in bringing the guy back? No one's signing him. He's not going anywhere else.
Because you want, regardless if it's in the AHL, man, you want to have players who have legs that work. There is no point whatsoever. You can find somebody in Sam Morin's position, as far as he hasn't been able to blossom into a pro, who can stay healthy. There's no point.
You want guys whose legs work, but you're okay with Keith Yandel playing 1,000 goddamn games and playing for the Flyers?
I was okay with that.
But his legs work.
I never said I was okay with that.
Yeah, but why are you not okay if Sam Morin's legs work, giving him a shot?
But they never work.
But
he's had 43 injuries on his legs, man.
Okay, it's been 6. All right,
might as well be 43.
Let's cut the hyperbole here. This isn't a hyperbolic show. Listen, by any means. Who are you talking to?
I'm talking to you, but
no, yeah. Look at me when you're talking to me. I just don't see the harm in it, and I think that if you give this, and I'm not talking like he's going to be this earth-shattering defenseman. I don't expect him to be a mainstay in the Flyers lineup, but the way that defensemen fall here in Philadelphia, what's the harm in keeping a guy like him?
All he does is fall.
But everybody else does too. Look at the injuries we have right now.
Okay, but here's the thing. All right, but here's the thing. Okay,
here's the thing.
And I mean this because I love you, buddy. I'm just trying to see some kind of, but
get with the point. Let's go.
We keep talking about we want change, right? And all this stuff. We're talking about being crippled by injuries, no pun intended.
Okay.
why are you holding on to a guy who resembles the past and is continuously crippled by injury?
Why are we holding on to Sean Couturier?
That's have we had that conversation yet?
Is it that different from Sam Morin, aside from the fact that he's a much better player?
Because he's a fucking Selkie winner. Yep, it's very different.
It is. It is very different.
Trying to make this conversation longer than the whole. Nope,
I'm not.
He doesn't. He should. He should go.
Because if it was that conversation, it wouldn't be fun.
Just throw a gritty suit on him. If he wants to stay with the organization, he can be gritty.
Gritty can go to hell. At the end of the day, I don't care. If Sam Morin doesn't resign here, is it going to suck?
They're not. The Flyers are not going to
would
sign
you
him.
shut the hell up and let me finish my thoughts? This is the one time in I don't know how long I've actually gotten time to talk and express my opinions because there's just two of us.
What is this, couples therapy?
You're going to shut the hell up and listen to me, John. I'm not going to be heartbroken if he leaves. It's going to suck, sure. Not like to the level of a Giroux, but I just think put him with the Phantoms. Let him see if he can regain some confidence. If he's there by the end of the year and he's still standing, both legs intact, swell. Whatever. Who's he hurting on the Flyers if he's at if he's with the Phantoms?
I don't know.
Is he hurting anybody aside from maybe
just himself?
There you go.
Not like an emo way either.
Almost beat me to it. Okay, that's the Morin conversation there. Would you like to add anything to that, John?
No, I wanted that conversation to last about 4 less minutes.
Oh, sorry, we couldn't acquiesce to your request there.
You have no idea what that word means.
No, but it makes sense in the
Hoagie's
context.
listening to this going, acquiesced?
Taking notes. Speaking of Hoagie, I can't let this episode go without telling a dad joke. I've got the book. I might as well, right?
God damn it. I'm fine.
I'm just literally the first one that I see.
You don't want to talk about how ridiculous the Easter Bunny is?
I think it's stupid. My kid, this is like a second Christmas at this point.
Talk about the weirdest holiday thing to add for kids. Like, we're talking about the resurrection of Christ. Bunny rabbit. Bringing eggs.
All right. That's good. I didn't hear what you said because I was looking at the joke I'm about to tell, and it's pretty good. You're going to laugh at this one.
I guarantee you I won't.
To the man in the wheelchair who stole my camouflage jacket, you can hide, but you can't run.
Should Sam Moran.
We're done here. I thought that was good.
It
come
was
on.
good, but
Wasn't
yeah,
bad.
you know, you got to be careful with the wheelchair jokes.
Do you? You got to be more
Yes.
careful about
You gotta be careful
running
with
over
everything.
people's toes.
Gotta be careful about everything.
And whatever. I forgot about the whole scrolling thing at the bottom. That's Hoagie's job. Recap here. Toronto, Montreal, Pittsburgh this week.
Lose them all, baby.
Yeah, buddy. All right. Shout out to the affiliates, Flyers High and Wide, all the guys over there, and 5 Minute Major Podcast at Flyers HW on Twitter for High and Wide, at 5 Min Major Pod for 5 Minute Major. John, your spiel, my friend.
You can find this podcast on all your various podcast listening receptacles, including but not limited to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Spreaker, Google Podcast, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Pocket Casts, and anything else that you can listen to on.
All the good ones, right?
All the good ones, even some bad ones.
Yeah, that one bad one that you haven't mentioned in about 6 months, but you know, you'll know where to find it.
They know.
Come on, man.
If they
One
know
more
what
time.
we're talking about.
One more time for old time's sake.
No, I won't do
Okay.
it.
Man, I really thought we had something special here today.
It's sad that I kind of forget what it was called.
Are you serious right now?
Yeah, no, I kind of am.
Oh
Was it
my
Pod
God.
Muncher, right? Not Pod Snatcher. That's what I'm going back and forth with.
I should have never brought this up. It was Pod Muncher. You're right.
All right, Pod Snatcher is its sister company,
Yeah.
right? It's a
We're gonna end this. We're gonna end this right now.
little less legal. The
You
Pod
can find
Snatching.
me on Twitter at Pod Street Bob. You can find the Pod Street Bullies on Twitter at Pod ST Bullies. John's no longer on Twitter because don't know why.
Every rose has its thorn.
And every show must come to an end. And that's where we're at right now. Folks, try to enjoy watching the games this week. If you don't, find something else better on TV. I don't care at this point. Adios.
Bye now.